There's a few things that I want to take a look at today for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Firstly, Orbx have released a free terrain upgrade for Iceland. Meanwhile, the latest feedback snapshots show a very specific date for performance fixes, and also Asobo have a rather special Q&A planned for next week. So let's jump in and take a look. The latest world update included the Noridics. Overall, it was an impressive update. However, not all terrain improvements were quite as good as some people might have hoped. This in part is due to the lack of availability for quality satellite data in the northernmost regions. Now, thankfully, Orbx have come up with a very nice additional improvement for Iceland. This comes in the form of a new terrain mesh, which will upgrade the landscapes for the entire country. You can see a few examples on the screen right now. Firstly, take a look at Kirkjufell. Both before and after World Update 5, it left a lot to be desired. However, the Orbx update improves it quite substantially. Whilst the satellite imagery, the textures we see overlaid here, still isn't perfect, the shape of the terrain itself is vastly improved. You'll find that the same story is true right across the whole of Iceland, so this update is well worth getting. It's entirely free, although you will need to get it direct from Orbx, which means you'll need to download their client, Orbx Central. This will then be able to manage all of your Orbx installs for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can find a link in the video description. Moving on to this week's feedback snapshot, there's one thing that really stood out to me. The rest of the snapshot seemed to be pretty much stationary though, and unchanged from previous weeks. But let's have a look at that one particular point. The dreadful performance issues, we mentioned it right at the start of the video. It's been a long issue, it's been there right from day one since Flight Sim released. There's been some improvements of course, but many people still suffer from very big problems when it comes to performance in the sim. Now, this at last has finally got a very specific date. It's now saying the 27th of July. This of course is the same date as the Xbox release of Flight Simulator, and it's also the same release date for Sim Update 5. Now, over the past year, Asobo have frequently stated that Windows version of Flight Simulator will be upgraded to DirectX 12 alongside the Xbox release. However, as yet there's been no recent comment on this, so that's left some people wondering what is exactly going on. At this point, I think it's reasonable to assume that the PC build will indeed be upgraded to DirectX 12 along with Sim Update 5. However, that is pure speculation at the moment, so don't count on it. We're just going to have to wait and see at this point. But that said, even if DirectX 12 doesn't arrive on that date, Asobo have made it very clear they expect to see some significant performance improvements on that date, so it could be a good date for all of you who still have some issues when it comes to getting an acceptable frame rate. Meanwhile, on the 30th of June, Asobo will be discussing all the changes coming to the PC and Xbox for Microsoft Flight Simulator. They touched on this briefly during E3, at least some of it, but it should be nice to get some more in-depth information on all of this. Now, elsewhere in the flight simming community, we have this great new video from YouTuber The Flight Level. In this video, there's an amazing comparison between a real-world Niagara Falls and the one in Sim. Being a real-world pilot, Flight Level took out a real Vans RV9A for flight and then matched the exact same footage in Sim, allowing for side-by-side comparisons. I suspect most of you will agree that this is a fantastic video. Now, there's a couple of short clips on the screen right here, but that's only a short clip, so I do highly recommend that you checking out the full video, which you can find through the links in the video description. Finally, for those of you who use SimToolKit or SimToolKitPro, it has been upgraded with what they're classing as the single largest performance update that they've released so far. So, for those of you who may be unaware, what is SimToolKitPro? Well, basically, it's a fantastic third-party tool, or what we could call as a toolbox. It includes flight planning and dispatching. It includes flight logbooks as well as airport databases. Basically everything you could want. There's streaming overlays, searchable real-world route databases, real-world charts for global coverage, and many other things besides. Basically, it gives you all the information and tools that you need for a successful and very complete trip within your flight simulator. Now, SimToolKitPro is completely free, so if you haven't checked it out before, now could be a very good time to do so. Again, you can find a link in the video description. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.